Hi everybody. So today I'm going to be running a video of the LG CX 65-inch OLED television and best settings for gaming. Today I'll be doing Call of Duty, but a lot of the stuff will transfer across to other games and also other LG OLED televisions. I'm not too familiar with the other OLED TVs. Personally, I like PC gaming. For new generations, other OLEDs probably will work very similar, but at the moment, I really like the way the CX OLED works, especially with G-Sync. Really, really good, and makes a very, very big difference, especially if you want to play in 4K. So here we have Call of Duty, and I'm just going to select the class. We look around a bit. Okay. So this is shipment. As you can see, quite crisp. And after probably 10-15 hours, I would say, of just tweaking, not even playing, just tweaking the settings and looking for the best balance between frame rate, resolution, and gameplay, I have finally figured out the settings. I don't think anybody can argue with me here. In this current generation, when the 3080 comes out, you won't. This video won't be as necessary. Probably within 3 or 4 years when the stock becomes available. So when the 3080 comes out, it's okay because you'll be able to reach 120 FPS. I don't think we'll go 240 hertz on an OLED for at least 2-3 years. So for now, 120 is probably as high as we can go. Maybe 240 for 1440 or 1080p. Now, what I've done, and there's a few steps to this, and it's very hard to explain, as I feel sometimes if I miss out on one step, for some reason the whole system seems to have problems. So I'm going to get started. As you can see, let's walk around shipment first. Very nice reflections. As you can see, beautiful detail, right? And our 4K television, you'd assume this image is 4K. Right, looks pretty good. Lot better than PlayStation and Xbox. Not even close. And they do run at 4K, although with 30 or 60 frames per second. I think 60 is only on the One X. So you see here, everything's really good. Look at that nice depth. The shadows, very, very high resolution. Beautiful. Now, are you ready for this? This is not 4K. This is running at 1440p. That is correct. How many of you would have thought this was 4K? It is great to have a 4K television, but if you want to be competitive and if you want to game on PC, if you don't mind, go get yourself Xbox One X or the new generation of consoles, and the graphical fidelity will be much, much better. Not even close to a PC of the same cost. I shouldn't say PC in general. Because, for example, a new PS5 is going to have most games at 4K 30 frames. Maybe performance mode of 1080p 1440 with 60 frames. Maybe a couple will allow you to get to 120 frames with lowered settings. I think maybe the new Call of Duty. But the point is that there's massive trade-offs. But consoles in general have always been more about graphics. But PC, I don't mean to sound elitist, is where the real gamers go. Because you get the high frame rates. And don't get me wrong, I have a PlayStation. I love it for the exclusives. But to be honest, if Last of Us came to PC, I would get it on PC if I had to choose. If you have the couple of grand and you like PCs and you like to install drivers and you like to do all the fun quote unquote stuff that comes with PC, but it's rewarding. It's like having a car that you care about and you modify and you put money and love and attention into versus you go buy yourself $100,000 car. It's just not. Obviously it's going to run better from day one, but the potential and the reward is not there. And it's the same deal with PC. Now, let me just get started with the settings. So, number one setting, HDR off. If you're playing great first-person games like The Witcher or new Cyberpunk, Last of Us is another example. So for console, I usually leave it on because console, I'm not looking to get the highest score and stuff necessarily. It's more just a casual experience or story-based experience. So Okay, of course, high frames is always going to be better, but for story based, I generally prefer better graphics. So story based, I don't mind getting the frames a bit lower. Obviously, prefer both, but you have to choose when it comes to console and this current generation of PC. But with the 3080, you won't have to choose. So let's go into graphics, and I'll show you what I've done here. And it's gonna come off across as confusing, but for some reason, this is the only way that I've been able to get such amazing quality and still very good frame rate. So first of all, you don't want full screen borderless. Look what happens when I switch to full screen. Now this was very confusing to me. I really didn't understand why this was the case, but and I'm sure someone will explain so kindly, maybe not so kindly in the comments. When you put full screen, look what happens to the memory. Now you put full screen borderless. Now, let me explain what happens when you go full screen borderless. When you go full screen borderless, it seems to overwrite and increase the memory used, but then the render resolution here is higher, even higher than, because normal 4K is 3840 times 2160. This is 4096 times 2160. Now, what I think is happening is when you're putting full screen borderless, the textures are coming out as 4K. But if I pressed advanced and see it's locked, I can't change here because it's borderless. 2560 times 1440. Now, if I put full screen borderless, in a weird way, the frames remain around the same, but the image is much worse, because what I feel is happening is it's just compressing it to 1440, or even was just keeping it 1440 rather than having the improved textures. Now, in the settings, everything high. High, incredibly high, nothing available, cache everything. I personally haven't had any issues with going over the memory bar there. If you have, or if you do get any problems, or you have big heating problems, very hot GPU, then don't go down. But I really like the MSI Gaming X Trio. Very, very cool graphics card. Excuse me. Now, obviously, high everything. I like anti-aliasing. Some people say it causes lag, but I don't know. I feel the new Call of Duty, especially on Warzone, the aliasing is very bad. Very bad. Borderline that it just gets distracting. Even if the frame rate's slightly higher, we're talking a couple of frames here. More so on certain maps. I have motion off. I prefer to have motion off. No film grain, no filmic strength. You don't need it because you have the aliasing on high, and ray tracing enabled. Now, this is an important thing to realize with ray tracing. There's no universal should I have it, should I not have it. On this map shipment, it can cause you 20-30 frames difference. Smaller maps, it causes substantially more difference. Let's just change that now. Apply. Look at that. Already pretty much straight away 20 frames per second difference. It's not worth 20 frames. It still looks nice. Let's go and have a look. Still pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Now, Warzone, funnily enough, I only ever noticed a 5, maybe 10 frame per second difference. Same as on the big maps, the ground war maps. You may as well leave it on, especially if you're getting close to the 120. Now, the last thing to consider is VSync. What VSync does, it basically tracks the graphics performance, and it maintains a nice tear-free experience, but it comes with very noticeable input lag. I don't like it. I always have VSync off in every game. Now, what this means is when you go to areas of lower text, not even lower textures, let's say you go into an office building where there's not the vista to be generated, and you at some points will go, for example, in Warzone above 120, and it will be a very noticeable tear for about 0.3 of a second. At first, I was like, if I could get rid of that, and I tried VSync on, and then I realized that's just the graphics card doing its job. When you see that tear and you look up at the FPS counter and you see 126, to me it just reminds me of the power that you're getting out of this unit. And the 2080 Super is a fantastic, even the 2070 super fantastic performer. If you're not playing heavy 4K, honestly, I would even say wait, see what Nvidia or AMD is going to come out with. Don't go and trade it in for a 3070 unless because to me you may as well just go and get a used 2080 Ti if you can get it. But I just say stick with your 2080 for now and see what comes out. And now is not a good time to buy a new graphics card unless you get very lucky with the stock or you have a very good friend. But yeah, look, feel free to ask me any questions. I have another 2 OLEDs. I'm going to be reviewing their gaming performance and showing the difference. Now, if you can just see how smooth that is, look at the smoothness. Look, that's beautiful right there. Let's look at the frames. 113. Absolutely glorious. Don't tell me you can get anything close to this experience on a console. So once again, I'm Hans, the game reviewer, and I look forward to your comments. And yes, please look forward to future videos about OLED and all things gaming. Thank you.